Please welcome to the stage, Verna Gillis, the older.
Funny, not cheery. I'm going to start with a disclaimer. Not as funny as it used to be. I turned 79 on my last birthday. If you don't think turning 79 isn't one big fucking surprise, just wait. I admit it got my full attention in a very different way. I used to describe myself as being in the infancy of older. I have now moved into my adolescence. Closer to dead than to alive, wondering where will be my last place on earth and what will take me out. Knowing that one day the last thing I say will be the last thing I said, and vice versa. Mortality sightings on the rising. The future closer to the present than it's ever been. Navigating loss and less on the rougher seas of older. My partner of 18 years died in 2017 from cancer. Life after death is about those of us who remain. Death is a life-changing experience. Cancer enters your life and you cohabit. It moved in. It was never moving out. Oh, for the day when the C word meant cunt. Hospice was a miracle of compassion and practicality. They remind me of Jehovah's Witnesses. Whenever you turn around, there's another pamphlet. In the last stages of his life, I could judge my mental health by whether or not I engaged with telemarketers. When I slammed down the phone on the last motherfucker piece of shit, I knew it was time to start seeing a grief counselor. I asked her about her group. I'm not sure they get you, she said. Get me? Well, you do curse a lot, she said. I do. That's true. I acknowledged. However, I'm civilized. I'm socialized. I don't tell anyone, go fuck yourself, or fuck you, unless they deserve it. I was always emotionally available. The problem was, which emotions? Months after his death, I told a friend that what I miss most was the body of it. You have to learn to hug yourself, she said. I don't think so. I just have to learn to live with missing. Missing is part of life. After all, relationships are about assisted living. A guide to approaching incontinence. First big step is one of acceptance. You no longer have any control over your bladder. Start wearing pads. You can order my brand, free to pee, you and me. You will no longer have to worry about leaving stains on furniture or going through, or even getting to a bathroom on time. You can pee while you are standing around talking at a party. No one will know. Always assume you have to pee, and you'll always be right. Do not stop to wash dishes on your way to the bathroom. The water from the faucet will make you start peeing if you haven't already. Do not send that one more text or email before going to pee. Learn how to pee between open doors of a car, anywhere at all. Most of all, you can now relax. You have adjusted your expectations to the new reality. The golden years is all about peeing. They got that right. I went to the co-op, could not remember the name of what I wanted to buy. I described it to the man standing next to me. Green, flat, you put it in soup, and it starts with a P. Bay leaf, he said. Exactly. I often have no memory of yesterday. I do, however, have proof it happened. It is now today, and today always follows yesterday. My segues have become confidential. I could always keep a secret, and now I keep it from myself. I was on the phone with a friend, and I suddenly realized I had no idea what she was talking about. I kept hoping she would say something that would give me a clue, bring me back on board. It wasn't happening. I couldn't take it anymore. What the fuck are you talking about? My new practice is called mindlessness. I try mindfulness, however. If you knew what my mind is full of, you would not recommend it for me. A good hair day now is all about tweezing. I spend an inordinate amount of time in my life in pursuit of minuscule hairs. The gentle coaxing out to the final extraction elicits sighs of yearning and satisfaction, sighs which, if heard from outside, would sound sexual. I worry about who will tweeze me when I no longer can. For anyone kissing me, it will feel like brushing up against a serrated fence. No one ever accused me of being cheery. The older I get, the more my skin separates from my bones. I realized that if I stood on my head, I would suffocate. However, if I could have stood on my head, my whole life would have been different. I was recently asked to submit a recipe to a cookbook being assembled locally. 1/2 ounce of marijuana, 2 bars of butter, a little bit of light olive oil, saute slowly, remove roughage, let it settle, spread on toast. It was rejected, even though the person told me it was one of the best recipes they received. They asked me to submit another one. That's all I've got, I told them. The 11-year-old daughter of a friend was visiting and complained that her parents think she is too young to have her own iPhone. She then asked me, "How old were you when you got your first iPhone?" 65, I replied. She then took a photo of me with my phone and passed it to me. If it had not happened that way, I would not have known who I was looking at. I have become the grandma doll. Wind her up, and she won't remember what she was going to say. Pretty soon you can feed her and change her diapers, and she'll fart all on her own. When I next see my nephew, I ask him, "When you look at me, do you see someone you recognize?" "Yes," he replied, looking at me blankly. Later he texts to say that often he doesn't understand where I'm coming from. He will in 30 years. Guide to Country Living, Part 1. What to do if you're in the pool and a bear comes out of the forest. 1, you shit in the pool. 2, you get out of the pool. 3, if the bear doesn't eat you, run into the house. I've been reluctant to go anywhere, much at all, during COVID. Didn't want to be exposed to the crazies as I define it. Early on, I made a rare stop at the post office to grab my mail from the P.O. box. Masked, gloved, P.O. box right there. Quick, in and out. I get the mail, turn around, and there's a man without a mask. I look at him and say to my mask, "Dumb motherfucker." He looked uncertain, as if he couldn't really believe what he heard. I immediately turned around and left. The crazy person I didn't encounter was myself. Whistling in the dark, whistling in the light. Some days I have to crawl my way back to gratitude. Always worth the crawl. I have a suggested gratitude list for you for a really bad day. 1, you're not a proctologist. 2, you're not my dentist. I have a new category which I call, "Should I be worried?" I asked him where he was from. "Idaho," he responded. "Oh, Idaho, Nebraska," I said. "My husband did a sculpture in Nebraska." Do you come from a family? Do you breathe in and out? And on any level at all, do you take in the state of things? You automatically qualify for Anxieties Anonymous. Every morning, you will turn over to an anxiety sponsor a list of things to worry about that day. If it's not on your list, you cannot worry about it for today. If you have the need to make changes in your committed anxiety list, contact your sponsor. Why is what you committed to worrying about today suddenly not good enough? The case of the shrinking anesthesiologist. I went for my regular decade colonoscopy, and I had a charming anesthesiologist from Azerbaijan. "I've always wanted to go to Azerbaijan," I said. "Why would anyone want to go to Azerbaijan?" he replied. "For the music and food," I started to answer. Then I noticed he was shrinking. It was an odd sensation and confusing. Next thing I know, I'm waking up from the anal probe and understood that perhaps he hadn't been shrinking at all. My table had been moving up to greet the eye level of the proctologist. Of course, was he going to do this seated, bending forward? The days are getting longer. The nights are getting longer. Go gummies. The family is the pre-existing condition. My father said that the first 100 years are the hardest. I used to think he was cynical. Now I wonder if perhaps he was an optimist. Existential terror. Have a great day. I've learned you can never start over or begin again. You can, however, continue in a different way. And who cares if it all won't matter in the end? It matters now. There are some expressions, just don't say them around me, left you breathless? Not a good idea. The difference between life and death is breath. And let me tell you the worst thing you can say to an older person. You've never looked better. It's all good. It isn't all good. Haven't you noticed? A city friend rented a place in the country for the summer. One night she heard a banging on the porch, went downstairs, looked outside, and saw a man in a fur coat throwing things around. Of course, it was a bear. Can you see what you can't imagine? My daymares far surpass my nightmares. I have discovered the cure for hypochondria. Live long enough and it all becomes real. I'm experiencing more synapses. I've learned that just because I don't remember something doesn't mean it didn't happen. And just because I remember doesn't mean it did. I read you can know you're in deep shit when you leave your car keys in the freezer. What about the sponge in the refrigerator? Does that count? When I was a child, I thought that old age was an affliction. I would see groups of old people sitting outside. I would hold my breath when I passed them, not wanting to catch whatever it was they had that made them look that way. One day, perhaps, a very young child will hold its breath as it passes me. Here are some band names for groups of olders. The Dry Vaginas, Los Impotentes, the Post-Sexuals, Game of Groans. The certitude of the great uncertainty is more certain. We're all on a deadline without a specific date that we know of. We know we're all gonna die, something you can bet your life on. Here today, here tomorrow. I prefer that for now. We're all of a certain age. I am old. It's not an opinion. It's a fact. Some friends say, oh, you're not old. Yes, I am old. It's okay. It happens. I wasn't always old. I was not born old. I didn't spend my whole life being old. I lived to become old. That's the way it goes. 70 is the new 70. 79 is the new 79. At this time of life, simply being alive feels like enough to have in common with others. At this very moment, All of us, everywhere, are the oldest we have ever been. Thank you.